last days before the New World Order. The last pieces are falling into place. The last opposition is removed. The last hindrances are shattered. An insightful man has once said, in a science fiction film, the deadly enemy vessel decloaks just before it fires. And that is like the time we experience right now. About 150 years ago, men of great wealth and power began a movement, a plot. They saw the way the world developed by itself was not due to their liking. They felt they and people like them should be in charge, and they began to scheme to create a unified world empire under their control and influence, for their benefit and due to their design. This is called the New World Order. Many great and revealing things has been said about the New World Order ever since, and I will not go to any length here to explain how the New World Order did this, or what they did to create the setting in which we live. Their first obstacle was the old world of Europe, or ancient regime of kings, emperors, lords, and tradition. They knew as long as this old world order existed, no new world order would be established. And since they are more centered on America, they saw no place for a Europe based on tradition and historically developed national states. That old order had to be destroyed, and that they did. They orchestrated the First World War with the sole and only aim to destroy the old world order, the European world as it had developed for over 2,000 years, ever since the rise of the Roman Empire. The old world order was obsolete. It stood in their way, and in a very profound way, the world before 1914 was the last time the world was somehow free. But the old world fell. I think they did not really know exactly what would follow. The development of World War II was, as I see it, more a make-up plan. They were not sure they could take over right now, but the Third Reich and the Soviet Union were sort of laboratory experiments. They knew full well that neither fascism nor socialism would work, but they experimented with societies, simply to see how much pressure people would endure, to what lengths people could be manipulated to commit atrocities in the name of some higher good. And the perverse thing was, they were able to use the ideas of good to utilize them for evil. The idea was, of course, to poison those ideas, to permanently destroy any good idea, like the idea that a people should live independent in a nation, with sovereignty and autonomy. And as Nazism fell, so the idea of nation-states was poisoned, and most importantly the heartland of Europe was scarred. and they also knew that of pain and war people can be much easier manipulated than with merely abstract fears. So, after two orchestrated world wars, the old world order lay in ashes, and people were mightily afraid, just as planned. People which are afraid can be made to do almost anything, like give up freedom, or self-determination, or national independence. And that is the fear-mongering we hear to this very day. Every surveillance camera installed, every video drone hovering over your head, every new organization to control you and scan you, every new law to read your mail and control your private life, every new level of committees and commissioners with new authority over you. All this is always justified with the fear and horror of war, the fear from terror, from Nazis or communists, whatever works with the audience. For Americans it is mostly the fear from socialism and Islamic terrorists. For Europeans it is the fear from Nazis. And every time we have some events, some murderers, some incidents, just very conveniently at the right time, when some new law or new control is planned to make sure people are very afraid, so they agree to the new control and destruction of another liberty, bit by bit and step by step. All too convenient, some Islamic terrorist strikes, or some Nazi murderer goes on a killing just in a regular dose to keep you in fear and anxiety. And it works. While people always focus on some enemy, they do not look for the really dangerous people, for the real enemy, the New World Order. We live all in the last days before the New World Order. We have many crises now, in all parts of the world, but that is not yet when they strike. No. In a short time it will seemingly get better. The world will be lulled in the feeling that the worst is behind. The euro will recover a bit, and the dollar too. The oil prices will go down a bit. The economy will seem to get better. Peace seems at hand in crisis-ridden areas. And that is when you know that their time is close at hand. Like the silence just before the monster wave hits the shore, so will the breakdown of our world happen. When people think the worst is behind, then it will really get bad. And how it is said in one of the holy books of men, it will be given that Satan will rise over all the world for 1,000 years, and the saints and good people will suffer, and it will be that nobody will be allowed to buy or sell who hasn't a sign of Satan in his hand or head, and evil will reign for 1,000 years. This is the time coming. Therefore order your affairs, for there will be no battle, no glorious resistance. They have planned well. They have step by step eliminated all possible resistance. Every group or ideology which could unite them against them was destroyed or ridiculed. The coherent nations were mixed with foreigners for the sole purpose to incite hate and divide the masses. The great political ideals were all poisoned until they are only a mockery for men and no hope or refugee is anywhere, and people cannot take any powerful idea or belief that empowers them. People are dry of hope, dry of vision, dry of any fire that might inspire them. They took the weapon not only from people's hands, but also from people's mind. Unarmed in their mind, and unarmed without weapon. This won't be a war with guns and tanks and soldiers. This is a war about what you believe in. It is a war they fight to make you accept their reign, to make you believe that it is your best interest to let them do as they plan. The United States of Europe is their last test field. If that works, the last step is the global empire, the new world order. The last resistance cells are now destroyed just as we speak, until people are docile sheep and will beg for the kings of the new world order to save, secure, and feed them, being ready to give up their rights for a crumb of bread and their liberty for strong government and security. And man will know oppression unlike he has ever seen, and darkness will triumph. Therefore, men of the world, order your affairs, for in these days there are no shades of grey. There is light and good and liberty and truth, and there is darkness and evil and oppression and lie. If you do not choose light, you let the darkness move free, for in the reckoning there is no neutral, no in-between. For justice and mercy settle the affairs of your souls now. I am Endariel, messenger of justice.